After months of war, a 2-month ceasefire was agreed between Israel and Lebanon. The ceasefire calls for an initial 2-month halt to fighting and requires Hezbollah to end its armed presence in southern Lebanon, while Israeli troops are to return to their side of the border. Thousands of additional Lebanese troops and UN peacekeepers will deploy in the south, and an international panel headed by the United States would monitor compliance. Netanyahu seems to have finally agreed to a ceasefire due to Israel's dwindling munition stockpiles and the pressure on military reservists who have been fighting for months. US President Joe Biden confirmed Israel reserved the right to quickly resume operations in Lebanon if Hezbollah breaks the terms of the truce. The ceasefire deal does not give the Lebanese the same right if Israel violates the ceasefire agreement. The ceasefire also includes a clause that Lebanon must elect a new president, which has nothing to do with the war and raises questions that the ceasefire deal is more than just a halt in fighting, but an attempt by regional and global mediators to achieve other political aims. Whilst Hezbollah was not present in the talks, representatives of Iran's supreme leader were present in the ceasefire talks and agreed to the conditions that severely weaken Hezbollah's position in Lebanon. Rebel forces in Syria have taken control of the majority of the country's second-largest city, Aleppo, after mounting a lightning offensive that poses the biggest threat in years to Bashar al-Assad's regime. The regime in Damascus called upon Russia, who launched airstrikes in parts of Aleppo for the first time since 2016. The fighting in Syria's civil war had largely diminished in recent years, with the remnants of the opposition pushed to northern and northwestern areas of the country close to the Turkish border. The rebel onslaught has been led by a number of Turkish-backed groups. Chief amongst them is Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. The timing of all of this is all the more interesting with Iran and Hezbollah on the ropes. It remains to be seen if the battle in Lebanon is spreading to the wider region. Thousands of supporters of former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his political party breached authorities' barriers in Islamabad, gathering near key government buildings to demand Khan's release from prison. Violent clashes with security forces during the protest left at least 6 dead. To restore order, the government deployed army troops and authorized them to use live ammunition against miscreants and heavily shell protesters with tear gas. The protests reinforced the government's continuing unpopularity and PTI supporters' rejection of its rule. But after Pakistani authorities raided a square near major government buildings in the capital Islamabad, where supporters of Imran Khan were attempting a sit-in, Khan's party subsequently suspended the protest. The protests did not reach the scale and severity of major unrest that engulfed Pakistan in May 2023, and it would seem the crackdown had its intended effect. Since Imran Khan's imprisonment in highly questionable charges, his supporters have tried to use his plight to pressure the government and the country's military leadership, but for the moment, they have failed to make a dent on the status quo.